In 2008, deep in the forests of Södermanland, Sweden, two men made a discovery that still raises questions today. A secluded building, hidden from the roadside, a broken lock, and inside 13 coffins, some more than 2 centuries old, some containing the skeletal remains of adults and children. This is not folklore. This is not a urban legend. This was published in Sweden's mainstream newspapers and remains one of the strangest, least explained grave sites in modern Swedish history. Tonight we're exploring the true story of the 13 forgotten coffins of Södermanland. On November 17th, 2008, a Swedish newspaper reported that 2 men from Nyköping, Adam Blenlid and Daniel Pettersson, had stumbled upon what they described as a secret grave chamber. According to the article, the structure stood alone in the forest, partially concealed by trees. Curious, the men entered through a door whose lock had already been broken. Inside they found 13 wooden coffins arranged in rows. Some were large, some were small, children's coffins. The oldest were believed to date back to the 1700s, the youngest from 1915. Some coffins had names on them. At least one children's coffin was so badly damaged that the skeletal remains were partially exposed. The scene shocked the men, and when word spread, it drew the attention of Swedish media and the public. According to the newspaper, the owner of the property confirmed that the building was a formal grave chapel, a private burial vault. The people buried there were said to be former residents of a säteri, an old Swedish manor estate. Private burial chapels were historically used by wealthy families who wanted to be buried together on their own land, rather than in a churchyard. Many such chapels were sealed, locked, and forgotten over generations. This one appears to have been left untouched for decades, until the lock was broken sometimes before 2008. But here's where the mystery grows. There is no publicly accessible archaeological report describing this chapel. No official documentation from Södermanland Museum or the Swedish National Heritage Board about 13 coffins in a forest building. Everything we know comes from the newspaper article, from locals, and from people who visited the site after it became known online. On Swedish forums such as Flashback, people discussed the discovery extensively. Some claim to have visited the chapel themselves. A frequent claim is that the building lies near to Vrena in Södermanland, a rural area with several historic estates. Visitors describe a small building on a hill, 13 coffins in various states of decay, 3 of them believed to be children, some with readable nameplates, and a lingering smell of old wood, mildew, and something else. One user reported that the coffins appeared to belong to a single wealthy family spanning multiple generations. Another user suggested tuberculosis, TBC, as a possible cause of several deaths, based on Swedish mortality patterns of the late 1800s and the presence of multiple children. None of these claims are officially confirmed, but they align with known Swedish burial customs and disease history of that time. Others mention vandalism, that after the 2008 article, curious visitors broke in, disturbed the coffins, and damaged the already fragile structure. Some claim the site was later sealed again, potentially by the landowner, though no official record confirms this. There are documented burial chambers in Södermanland, but none that match all details of the 2008 discovery. For example, at Berghammars kyrkogård, a historic family tomb known as the Hellbergska gravkammaren contains several wooden coffins, including children's coffins. These coffins were described in museum reports as damaged and decayed, similar to those in the 2008 story. If the site was a legitimate family burial chapel, why was it abandoned? Who forced the lock and disturbed the coffins? And what were they hoping to find? Some nameplates were missing, torn away, perhaps, or rotted off as the wood slowly surrendered to time. And who were the children? Why were there deceased children here at all? Was this place forgotten, even by the people who live on the land? Or was it intentionally left to decay in silence? Private chapels were once tended with devotion, cared for long after the final burial. Yet this one stood alone in the shadows of the forest, collapsing into itself, hidden from the world, until two men stepped through its broken doorway and disturbed the quiet that had held for generations. 13 coffins, spanning centuries, resting in silence deep in the Swedish forest, until someone opened the door, of course. Some stories stay hidden because no one remembers them, others because someone wanted them forgotten. Some doors in the forest were never meant to be open. If you made it to the end of this video and you like the content, subscribe or don't. Anyway, I wish you a good day, and I will see you in the next one. Bye 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 bye.